/crime.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Over Opinionated. Before I start, I just want to say a few things about how you can help this podcast. Number one, praying helps me, so please say a prayer for this podcast. Number two, by word of mouth, so please share this podcast with your friends, with your family. You can go to social media and look us up on Facebook at Over Opinionated. You can go to X, formerly known as Twitter, and page there at Over Opinionated, and the first I is a 1 in the username, or you can follow my personal account at NRV_guy79. You can also find us on Instagram. Also, if you feel inclined, I'd really appreciate it. There is a way you can help us out financially if you go to www.patreon.com/overopinionated679. The O in over is capitalized, and that would really help us out. And whatever is donated to the podcast will go back into the podcast, but the first 10% will go into a pregnancy resource center helping the lives of young mothers and unborn children. We also have a TikTok account, before I forget, and you can follow it at over_opinion679 on TikTok. With nothing else left to do, let's get into today's episode. Thank you. Alright everyone, it's been a little while since I posted. Thank you for coming back to Over Opinionated. We had 2 back-to-back awesome interviews. One with Dr. Mark Matney, the Commissioner of Revenue in Washington County. The other with Pastor Keith Falsky down in Florida from Conversations with a Calvinist. And today we have a special episode because we're starting our Christmas themes. And at the end of the podcast, well, a good portion of it will be about Christmas movies. I'll give you my list of my top 10 favorite Christmas movies and those comments from around the internet that had submitted theirs in. I'll read some of them off as well. But without anything other to do, we'll get into today's episode. Alright, we haven't talked national politics in a while. A couple weeks ago, I guess, was a political episode because Dr. Mark Matney is a Commissioner of Revenue. But we haven't talked about national politics and the 2024 general election. So we're going to have to get into it real quick. Joe Biden is in trouble. And everyone knows it. I want to read you the last poll on 538's website from Tippin Insight, TIPP Insight. And we have from November 29th to December 1st, Joe Biden is losing in the general election on the national poll to Donald Trump, 33% to Donald Trump's 38%. Still within the margin of error, still extremely close, but that's up 5 points. Trump is up 5 points. The last big poll I see. And before that, Trump was up by 2. So what is going on? Why is Joe Biden losing to Donald Trump right now? There's a few reasons. Number one is economics. Now we see from a lot of polls, we see from the White House itself that the economy is doing better. And statistically, there might be a little bit of truth to that. If we're going from 2020 to now, there's some truth to that. But the economy still is really hard. It's really bad. And especially on Christmas time, Christmas is super hard because the bills don't stop in December. You still got to make your car payment. You still got to pay rent. You still got to pay mortgage. You still got to go to the grocery store. And those grocery bills, even though they might be dropping a few cents from 2020 to now, they're still extremely high. And they're not nearly as good as the numbers were before the pandemic. Okay? And people remember that. So it's December. People are trying to buy for Christmas. They are stressed. I'm stressed a little bit about Christmas. But I know everything's going to be alright. So it's easy to get into that mindset. I mean, most families are, I'd say it's very, very hard to feed a family of 4, go to the grocery store once a week, and get out of there less than $300. That's got to be hard. And I'm kind of lowballing it in some instances. Then you have rent, then you have your car payment, and then you have gas. I'm going to read you guys. This is from AAA. They have a website. You can go look at the national gas prices. And that right now, as of yesterday, the 4th, today I'm recording on the 5th, the national average was $3.24 per gallon. And the Commonwealth of Virginia were just a little bit under with $3.11 average per gallon. But if you live in a left-wing state that adds a ton of gas taxes, listen to this. California, $4.08 a gallon average throughout the whole state. They have a higher gas tax than the state of Hawaii. They have a higher gas prices than the state of Hawaii. And it's super hard to get low gas prices in Hawaii because they're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and you have to pay for that shipping. Hawaii is at $4.07. Hawaii is at $4.70 a gallon. California, $4.80. That's crazy that California has higher gas prices than the state of Hawaii. And then, as most of you live, in Virginia, it is $3.11. Tennessee, they have lower taxes. It is $2.89 there. In West Virginia, it's $3.21 there. That's the national average. But that's your national and state average. And real quick, I want to throw up the diesel prices, because that's just the lowest quality grade. If you go to diesel, here's California's diesel prices. It's $5.74 a gallon. The state of Virginia, where we live, it's a lot lower. It's $4.12 a gallon. My goodness, it is expensive to drive a diesel right now. I've heard some people say Democrats are for the wallet. They're not for the working people. But yeah, that's why Joe Biden, that's one reason why he is failing. And right now, the polls are indicating that Trump is beating Joe Biden. And you know how ridiculous that is, that a former president that got beat the last time by the current president is running again and is winning in the polls. That doesn't happen much. Okay? And everyone knows that listens to me regularly. Trump's not my favorite guy in the primary. My favorite person is Ron DeSantis. But Trump is above everybody in the Republican polls. And what most Republicans are saying is, if Trump can beat Biden, why not have the guy we want? Okay? To beat Biden. If Trump can beat Biden, let's put him up against it. And a lot of Republicans think that Trump's the only person that can beat Biden. I don't believe that. But that's where we're at. Okay? This is it's a two-person race. Really it is. Unless something big between now and then happens, between Iowa and now, Trump's going to walk away with this nomination. Now, what scares me is Joe Biden's poll numbers start going up, and during the election, during the primary and then the general election, Trump's having all his court cases. And he starts looking worse and worse on paper, and then Joe Biden gets elected to another 4 years. I don't want that. But, I mean, I will support Trump if he wins the nomination, because it's him or Joe Biden. And, you know, people will say, well, what about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? He's running as a third party. Third parties don't win. They don't win in the United States of America. You might not like that. It's just how it is. And if I vote for someone else, I really feel like I'm taking away the vote for the Republican. And I know that people will say, voting for a third party isn't taking away votes for the other person. But if I was going to vote for the other person, vote for the third party, I feel like it is. I just don't buy the argument, okay? And why else is Joe Biden failing? The public sees him as really old, and they see him as not able to keep up with today's issues. They see him as failing. They see the war in Israel. They see the war in Ukraine, and especially the war in Israel. And a lot of the left flank of Joe Biden is mad at him for supporting Israel, because that's how they are. There's a bunch of radical people in the Democrat Party, a lot of younger people, a lot of socialists that hate the state of Israel, and they believe they are oppressive and want Palestinians to have all the land and Israel to have nothing. They live in a fantasy utopia where all the Jewish people will just be able to live in peace under a Palestinian government. Won't happen. It's a fantasy. But there's a part of that Democratic voting bloc that really believes that. And that hurts Joe Biden too. And he doesn't seem competent. He doesn't. Okay? He just doesn't. And they're looking at Trump and they're saying, right now, they're saying he might say bad things. We don't like him, but he's better than this guy. Okay? That can go back and forth, and that will go back and forth. If the economy gets a little bit better, I mean, a lot more better, and if we get some clarity in Israel, we get better stances there and more peace there, then maybe Joe Biden goes up. And that's not what I want. I don't want Joe Biden to go up. Don't get me wrong. I want the economy to go better. I want Israel's situation to get better. I don't want Joe Biden to get better in the polls, though. But that's where we are. And Republicans are playing their Trump. It's Trump or bust. You know, there used to be cars that, you know, they would write Los Angeles or bust on them, and they would go as far as they could. Some of them like it, some of them didn't. That's what the Republican Party is doing. Trump or bust. And the establishment is rallying behind Nikki Haley, but the people are saying, no, we want Trump. DeSantis is our second favorite, but we want Trump. And the reason I say that the establishment is rallying behind Nikki Haley is because one of the Cook brothers, one of them passed away sadly, a billionaire donors, are now backing Nikki Haley. I think it's the Americans for Prosperity. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that. They endorsed Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, I personally believe, is everything I don't like about the Republican Party, the neocon type of Republican. And I'm not saying that as a slap. I know a lot of people on the internet use that as a bad term. I'm not trying to use that as a disgusting term, but like the neocon type of Republicans, the war hawk type of Republicans, the Republicans that don't care that much about abortion because they think it's a losing issue. I don't care if it's a losing issue. It's a moral issue. That would be like saying I don't care about slavery. It's a losing issue. If we got to care about it. We can't kill babies, and that's what the Democratic Party stands for: is killing your baby up until the moment of birth. That's not a call for any violence. I hate violence. The only way to stop violence is by the love of Christ. okay, and in God's will. But I'm not going to mend my words at the fear of some Democrat blaming stuff on me. I'm not going to. The Democratic Party is for killing unborn children through abortion to the moment of birth. The vast majority of them are. But that's why I think we need a Republican president. That's why I don't like Nikki Haley. If she's our nominee, I will hold my nose and I will vote for her. But if in the primary it comes down to Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley or Donald Trump, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And that might surprise people. You're like, I can't believe that. I've really meditated over it for a while. Like, what am I going to do? And I could change my mind before that time comes. But right now, as it sits, I'd vote for Trump. Because it looks like Trump has the ability to beat Joe Biden. And I can't stand Nikki Haley. She hasn't done anything to win me over to her. She's done everything to push me away from her. Now, I know it's hard to please everyone in American politics. There's a lot of people in America. She's not sitting back and saying, well, what is Josh Scott going to say about me on Over Opinionated? She's not worried about that. But people like me in Southwest Virginia don't like that type of Republican. The establishment might. Some party chairs might. And not all party chairs are establishment. Just want to clarify. But some party chairs might. Some party vice chairs might. Some hierarchs in the party might like her. I don't as a voter. I don't as a commentator. I don't as a volunteer. So if it becomes between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley, I'm voting for Donald Trump unless Nikki Haley shows me something different. Moving on to our next story, Congressman George Santos was expelled, being in a very few list of people ever expelled from Congress. And I want to read you a little bit, just part of an article from Fox News. Embattled GOP Rep George Santos expelled from House. It wasn't immediately clear Friday morning which way the vote would go. The House of Representatives voted to expel scandal-plagued Representative George Soros, New York, Republican from New York, on Friday, making him the first lawmaker to be expelled in more than 20 years. A solemn hush fell over the House chamber as Speaker Mike Johnson slammed his gavel, formalizing the historic ouster. Santos walked out of the House chamber just before all the votes that sealed his fate were cast and did not answer reporters' questions on his way out. Expelling a member of Congress takes a 2/3 majority vote. The last time a House lawmaker was expelled was more than 2 decades ago when late former Representative Jim Triac from Ohio was ousted from Congress. I definitely mispronounced his name. Prior to his ousting, he had been convicted of 10 felony accounts, including racketeering and taking bribes. Santos has not been convicted of a crime, but he has been indicted on 23 accounts related to wire fraud, identity theft, falsified classified material, credit card frauds, and other charges. Santos has been accused of using his campaign funds on a number of luxurious goods and treatments such as Botox. He has pled not guilty. The House voted 311 to 414 was strongly bipartisan, although slightly more Republicans voted to keep Santos than to oust him. Johnston would not answer reporters' questions on Santos' expulsion when leaving the House chamber after the vote, including a shotted inquiry from Fox News Digital on whether his exit and his substitution and his slimmer majority, House GOP majority challenges Republicans' calculus on the current government spending fight. Democratic Rep. Stacey Hyven from Maryland told Fox News Digital after the vote, "This was not a partisan effort. It was a reflection. I think the House members came to a conclusion that given the surrounding facts, Santos' election and post-election, that he defamed the House of Representatives and was not an appropriate person to represent people in the United States Congress." Santos within the House GOP on whether to expel Santos appeared split when Republicans emerged from a closed-door conference meeting on Friday morning. Representative Darrell Issy from California, a former chairman of the House Oversight Committee, argued reporters that expelling Santos would take away from the presumption of innocence he is entitled to. He also referenced Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey, who was recently accused of taking bribes and acting in the interest of the Egyptian officials, and the fact that he is not being removed from the Senate. He has been tried either civilly or criminally. That is what probable gives me the most pause," said the representative. I've also been aware that Republicans on ethics committees wanted to continue a lesser sanction than removing him, and Free Democrats were not willing to do anything except expulsion. Okay, let's talk about this. George Santos is one of the biggest liars and con men in Washington, D.C. in the history. Taking campaign money, spending it on OnlyFans, and putting that type of material on the internet, paying off his credit cards, buying stuff like Botox. He's super flamboyant. He is the first Republican homosexual to be voted in to the House of Representatives. He got caught doing drag, which he denied, and then he jokes and laughs about everything, and this is my problem with expelling him. This has happened 7 times in the history of the United States. I'm not saying it's unconstitutional, but I don't like the precedent. Because I think when your constituents go to vote for you, and the House of Representatives, which is supposed to be the closest to the people, that is their guy in charge. That's who they want to be in charge. That's who they are saying, okay, this is my guy in Congress. Now, in 2 years, or in just a little bit, every 2 years you vote for them, but just a little bit, they go back to the voting booth. I think you take this to the constituency, and what I would have done is, which I know the Democrats didn't want to do this, I would have censored him, which is a condemnation. And I think all the Republicans, except like a couple, would have voted to censor him. I just don't like expulsion. If anyone deserves expulsion, it's George Santos, but I'm not a big fan of expulsion. With that being said, if you expel every person and every elected official in Washington, D.C. that has an allegation against him or her, there's no Congress. There's no Congress. But, yeah, so George Santos is no longer the gentleman from New York. So, someone, play the sad Titanic flute in the chat. Just kidding. But, so we're going to move on to our next story. Last week, we had a very interesting debate. You had Ron DeSantis, a candidate for president on the Republican side, facing up against Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who is running a shadow campaign for president. And so what Gavin Newsom is doing is he's hoping that Joe Biden either steps down or he dies so he can run for president. And he will deny that, but it's super obvious that he's putting himself out there. Why else would you do this debate? He went to Fox News and faced off against Ron DeSantis, and it was moderated by Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity is one of the biggest conservatives in media of all time. This would be like the late, great Rush Limbaugh hosting a debate between a Republican and a Democrat. But this type of thing does happen. I give him kudos for that, for going out and trying. But I will say this. One of the last presidential debates in 2020 had a Rachel Maddow on a panel, and she's super left wing. So most of the time the odds are stacked against the Republicans. So I don't hear any small violins playing for the Democrats on this one. But it's obvious he is running for president. He's just running a shadow campaign and hoping that President Biden steps down. And I want to read you a bit of an article from ABC News. 7 takeaways from Ron DeSantis' debate with Gavin Newsom. After more than 90 minutes of arguing, insulting, cross-talking, and a few prompts, Florida governor and California governor ended their debate on the Fox News on Thursday night. On a lighter note, trading compliments. But much of that came before underlying the major differences and different debate styles on some of the biggest issues of the day, including abortion access, crime, and police safety, the economy, immigration, and more. Sean Hannity moderated, often pleading with the two governors to spend less time talking over each other and more time answering his questions. Here are 7 takeaways from the face-off, blinded as the Great Red versus Blue State debate, though it also played out as one of the two participants is running for the White House and the other is discussed as a future presidential contender. Newsom embraces the role as Biden's biggest defender. Throughout the evening, Newsom served essentially as a stand-in surrogate for the White House and its policies, frequently harping praise on President Joe Biden's economic agenda and defending him on border security as DeSantis hurled sharp worded attacks on how the administration has handled the cost of living and other problems. DeSantis accused Newsom of running a shadow campaign for the president in 2024. He is. He 100% is. Okay, we'll continue. A prime example of a promise the California governor has vigorously rejected and gone to great lengths to dispute. Asked by Hannity if he would say unequivocally if he would not run in 2024 under any circumstances, Newsom quickly shot back, correct. Unless Joe Biden dies, Newsom should have replied and said, he. That last part was me. I'm going to continue. I don't know how many times I can say it. Just making this stuff up about a shadow campaign, he said. I appreciate the respect and the work the president is doing and the vice president, the Biden-Harris campaign team. To that end, Newsom also interjected one of DeSantis' answers to correct DeSantis on pronouncing Kamala Harris's first name, saying DeSantis should show more respect. Speaking to reporters after the debate, Newsom emphasized that supporting the Biden campaign was a key part of his strategy unto Thursday night. I focused on defending and promoting, supporting, and telling the truth about the Biden record. I was pleased to have that opportunity, he said, adding that he and the 90-minute back and forth was part of an anti-Biden doom. 2024 looms in the background. Fox News previously previewed the event as a debate between governors of two huge states with vastly different ideologies, but the presidential race remained central to the discussion. Newsom at multiple times pointed out to DeSantis' gaping poll deficit in the Republican primary, where he trails former frontrunner Donald Trump, former president, even in his own state, despite entering the race with much fanfare and widespread goodwill among conservatives. How's that going for you, Ron? Newsom asked after accusing the Florida governor of trying to out-Trump Trump. DeSantis, for his part, challenged that Newsom was trying to quietly run his own campaign for the Democratic nomination next year. He is in decline, yes, DeSantis said of Biden. It is a danger to the country. He has no business running our country, and Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that. That's why he's running a shadow campaign. Newsom accused DeSantis of just making stuff up. And one of the most notable jabs of the night, Newsom invoked DeSantis' struggling campaign. One thing that we have in common is neither of us will be the party's nominee in 2024, he said. Well, that's probably true because Biden's probably not going to die and Trump's going to win the nomination. Cross-talking and claims of lying. The debate was repeat with moments of the two talking over one another for minutes on end while claiming that the other was lying. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight, DeSantis said, an hour into the night on COVID-19. The governors battled for space to accuse each other of implementing harmful policies. You had quarantine, you had checkpoints, Newsom said. False, DeSantis fired back. The exchange saw all of these men speaking at once. DeSantis repeatedly asked Newsom why California was closed. Newsom recounted instances where DeSantis wore a mask, and Hannity asked the governors to let it breathe. The host agreed the host argued that during the debates not to focus on to be a hall monitor, a plea mostly went unheeded. Elsewhere, Hannity noted how lively the exchanges were, though he also cracked at it wasn't just a potted plant to be ignored. To cap it all, the end of the night ended awkwardly, with everyone involved appearing to agree to end the debate for 20 minutes until the end of the second hour. Fox News went to commercial on that tease, but when the program returned, Hannity informed viewers that actually the governors had other comments and the debate was over. This is pornography. Perhaps one of the most spirited conversations over the night amid the discussion of Florida's Parental Rights Act and education, frequently referred to by critics as the Don't Say Gay law, though it is supporters say it is shielding children from inappropriate topics. DeSantis has campaigned on advocating supporting the legislature, which widely restricts discussions of sexual orientation and gender identity in K through 12 classrooms when not deemed appropriate. At one point in the debate, during the defense of the law, DeSantis, in apparently violations of the debate, ruled against props, pulled out a photo on set of a graphic novel, Gender Queer, a minor, which is depicted as a sense of oral sex. Some of it is blacked out. You would not probably be able to put this on air, DeSantis said, adding that it was not consistent with the Florida standard. This is pornography. It's cartoons. This should not be showed in school. Another prop he brought out was to illustrate the criticism of San Francisco as the map showed all of the pieces where feces was seen on the street. DeSantis also said that schools should educate kids, not indoctrinate. Newsom shot back at DeSantis was using the law as a war to wage culture wars, as DeSantis disputed how many books in his state have been banned. Newsom said 14,006 books have been 1,406 books have been banned just last year under Ron DeSantis' leadership. I love that he keeps putting this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over the campaign. He went on to accuse the Florida governor of using education as a sword for your cultural purge. Newsom then invoked some of California's own history, referring to the 1978 state's Biggs Initiative, a ballot measure that proposed banning gay and lesbian people from teaching, which Newsom called the original Don't Say Gay bill. The proposal failed in part because of the opposition from then Governor Ronald Reagan. Addressing DeSantis, Newsom said, I don't like that the way that you demean the LGBTQ community, and I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron. I find it really fundamentally offensive. Comparing public safety. When the debate turned into the crime in the U.S., Hannity pulled out statistics from the FBI that showed the combined national rate of homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault in 2022. When the combined rate was shown for DeSantis and Newsom's representative states, Florida was lower than the national average, while California was above. Asked about California's crime rate, Newsom highlighted that the state has its lowest crime in 50 years. Newsom also noted that the murder rate was not mentioned in the provided statistics, stating that Florida has a higher murder rate than California. He then invoked the Parkland school shooting where 17 kids were killed, arguing DeSantis made it easier for some people to purchase weapons, referring legislation that the Florida governor signed earlier that year that allows Floridians to be able to carry concealed guns without a permit. Newsom quoted Fred Guttenberg, whose daughter Jane died in the shooting, and who called DeSantis weak and pathetic for signing the recent gun legislation. DeSantis responded to Newsom, calling him a slick politician, and redirecting attention back to California's high crime rates. People are leaving California in droves because public safety has collapsed, DeSantis said. Lying to migrants? ? As the two sparred over immigration and the border, Newsom accused DeSantis of lying to migrants under false pretenses by offering them jobs and housing and accommodation, stemming from DeSantis' effort to organize flights for migrants to Maranatha Vineyard. His office organized similar flights to Sacramento, California over the summer. This kind of gamesmanship using human beings as pawns, I think, is disqualifying, Newsom said. DeSantis shot back repeatedly that Newsom was spouting false information, arguing that Martha's Vineyard had claimed to be a sanctuary junction. We've got a lot of elites who want open borders, who lecture everyone about it, and then the minute they have a deal with any of the consequences, oh man, all hell breaks loose, DeSantis retorted. Newsom claimed that he was only making such moves for media attention. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games, Newsom said. All right, last one. Dealing views on abortion restrictions. Hannity pressed Newsom on abortion, asking the California governor if he supports any restrictions, partially in the third trimester of pregnancy, after the fetus is viable. Newsom avoided answering the question, because he wants to kill unborn human beings all the way up to the moment of birth and could care less. And probably, well, I'm just going to be putting words to him then. Yeah, so he avoids the question because he's a coward and doesn't care that unborn human beings are being murdered 5 minutes before they're born in the state of California. Alright, let's continue. Newsom avoided answering the question while noting that such procedures are very rare. So go ahead and kill the baby. Okay. And usually in case of a fetal anomaly. Instead, he is focused on DeSantis signing a 6-week abortion ban, which he calls extreme, because it's extreme to protect human beings that haven't been born yet. Hannity continued to press Newsom to answer the original question and eventually turned to DeSantis, asking the Florida governor what his reason was for signing a 6-week abortion ban instead of mandating the 15-week abortion ban in Florida. DeSantis said it is because he believes in a culture of life. Well said, DeSantis. That's why I like him. He's not a coward. He's not a coward on abortion. He's willing to stand for life. He's way more pro-life than Trump is. Newsom cut in and asked DeSantis if he would support a national abortion ban as president. DeSantis did not answer. Alright, that's a long article, but I think it was an important article. I think Ron won this debate. Obviously, I mean, I'm biased. This is called Over Opinionated for a reason, guys. Go listen to the debate. It's a good debate. This is the debate that America deserves. Okay? We have 2 governors from 2 of the biggest states. And Ron is right about a lot of these things. People are leaving California and going to Texas and going to Florida and going to Tennessee and other places with better governance. Now, they're still the most populous state in the union, but people are still leaving, okay? Take a look at California, take a look at Florida, see how they're governed, and tell me what you would like America to be like. I'd much rather America be like Florida, where they have a governor that stands up for the lives of the unborn. They have a governor that stands up for women's sports, getting rid of transgenderism in women's sports. And listen, when it comes down to it, we have 2 different types of Americans. We have people that would rather live in California and people that rather live in Florida. We're both Americans. We're both equally Americans. We both live under the stars and stripes. How is America so vastly different? And we have very different values. Very different values. But I'm still thankful we live in America, and I'm thankful for federalism, where Florida can be Florida and California can be California. And hopefully America will start acting more like Florida because it's working. Alright, guys. Now I want to get into some fun stuff. I want to get into Christmas. Alright, everyone, it is that time of year. It is Christmas. After Thanksgiving, I am in a big Christmas mood. I'm a big Christmas guy. I love Christmas music and I love Christmas movies. I don't like Christmas music too much before Thanksgiving, but after you eat that turkey, I like some Christmas music. So I asked a lot of friends, a lot of people on the internet through social media, what their favorite Christmas movies was, to give me a top 10 or top 5. And I'm going to read you off a few. This is my Aunt Melissa's favorite Christmas movies from Hollybrook, Virginia. Number 10, Home Alone 1. Number 9, Mickey Mouse Christmas Carol. That's good. 8, The Flintstones Christmas Carol. 7, Two Matters Christmas. 6, Christmas Story. 5, Rudolph. 4, Jack Frost. 3, Christmas with the Cranks. 2, Polar Express. This is my cousin Allie's list. Number 10. She doesn't have a number 10. Number 9, Rudolph. Number 8, Charlie Brown. Number 3, the Santa Claus trilogy. Number 6, the Polar Express. Number 5, Elf. Number 4, Christmas Story. Number 3, Home Alone. Number 2, Christmas with the Cranks. And number 1, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. My sister Faith's Christmas list. Number 10, Rudolph. Number 9, Frosty the Snowman. Number 8, Charlie Brown. Number 7, National Lampoon Christmas Vacation. Number 6, Home Alone 2. Number 5, Home Alone 1. Number 4, The Santa Claus. Number 3, Animated Christmas Carol. Number 2, The Grinch, Jim Carrey, and animated. I love both versions. Number 4, Elf. This is my wife's Christmas list. Number 10, the original Rudolph. Number 9, Ernest Saves Christmas. Number 8, Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. Number 7, A Christmas Carol. Number 6, A Christmas Story. Number 5, The Santa Claus. Number 4, Home Alone. Number 3, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, come on, honey. That doesn't count. That's a Halloween movie. Number 3, The Polar Express. Number 1, all-time favorite, The Grinch. Okay. We have my little sister Rose from Pearisburg. Her favorite is The Elf, then Santa Claus, The Polar Express, and then Rudolph. Going over to social media, shared from the Over Opinionated page on Facebook, Sherry Williams of Joe Virginia says, It's a Wonderful Life. Heather Codwell from North Carolina says, Elf. Mark Cox from Pearisburg, Virginia says, It's a Wonderful Life. Old, but somehow timeless. I agree. Caleb Taylor from Giles County says, Die Hard. And last, almost last, we have my stepmom, my second mother. I asked her for her favorite. She couldn't pick that many, but she picked Dolly Parton's Christmas of Many Colors, The Sound of Music, and Home Alone. Daryl McLean, host of the Rail McLean Show, says The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the original, The Christmas Carol, Home Alone, A Miracle on 34th Street, and then Caleb Crewy of Tazewell County said Elf, The Polar Express, and Rudolph Cartoon. All of these are great lists. I like Christmas movies. I like good Christmas movies, not these crappy Hallmark movies where this girl moves back to her hometown and falls in love with her sweetheart from high school, Brad, and they get married and they have kids. They're all the same. They're all the same. This crappy Christmas movie. I like a lot of Christmas movies because a lot of them have good morals. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Especially the classics. Have good morals and they celebrate the holidays. They make you feel good. They give you a nice feeling. But I love Christmas movies. Good ones, not the crappy Hallmark ones. But I want to read you my list of favorite Christmas movies, and we're going to talk about a few of them, okay? Number 10, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The animation, obviously, from 1964, classic movie. I love it. It shows a movie about a deer that is outcast, is bullied. Even Santa doesn't really approve of the deer because of the way it's born. And because of that, Rudolph doesn't, become evil. He feels disheartened. He comes with this elf that feels disheartened, this elf that wants to be a dentist. And this elf wants to be a dentist instead of a toy maker. And they go to the island of misfit toys. And I kind of felt like I should be on the island of misfit toys. Instead of being a Jack in the Box, I was a John in the Box, or whatever it was. I get that. I love that movie. And then, guess what? When it was foggy outside, Santa didn't ask Prancer. Santa didn't ask Dixon. They couldn't do it. No, it was Rudolph with his red nose that shines so bright that helped Santa lay his sled. It was Rudolph, not Prancer, not Donner, not Dixon. None of them. They weren't talking about the Rudolph games. They weren't talking about the reindeer games anymore. When they needed to see, they didn't have any LED lights. They had to have Rudolph's nose. All other reindeer sucked because they had a normal nose. That's a good story. All right, let's move on. And it's got a song. All right, we got to move on. Number 9. You have number 9, A Christmas Story. A great story. You have the family man, the mom, and then you have Ralphie. And a lot of iconic moments. You have him licking the icicle and getting his tongue stuck. Santa kicking him down the slide with his boot. And I absolutely, one of the funniest things ever, him having to wear this ridiculous suit that his aunt made him, that made him look like a pink bunny. Just iconic, made in 1983. Number 8, Home Alone. The first Home Alone movie. I like the second one, but the Home Alone movie, great story. This huge family takes a plane trip and forgets Kevin, and you have the meme, oh, where's Kevin? The Kevin meme. And then these two people, the wet bandits, try to break in and steal stuff, and this kid's just beating the crap out of them. And there's some good morals in there too about, not judging people off how they look, but judging people for who they are. Number 7, A Charlie Brown Christmas Story, 1965. I love this movie. I love this. I love Snoopy. I love the Peanuts. And a lot of great music, a lot of great instrumental music, and a good story of it doesn't matter how big your Christmas tree is. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's the people that are around you. Number 6, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Okay, some people want to say this is too low. Maybe it is. This is a great movie. National Lampoon Christmas Vacation is good any time of the year. It doesn't matter what. It could be super hot. It could be the middle of July, and I would watch this movie. Cousin Eddie, one of my favorite comedic cinematic characters of all time. I'm mad we never got a Cousin Eddie movie. Why did we never get... I've watched every National Lampoon I've watched every National Lampoon Vacation movie. We should have got a Cousin Eddie movie. We just should have. He comes up with this RV, and then he just loads the sewer, just all this crap down the drain, and with a ridiculous suit, drinking a beer, waving to Clark. He kidnaps Clark's boss and kicks him in the keister before the cops break in. Oh man, I love Cousin Eddie. He questions Clark if did they really see Santa? He says, "You being serious, Clark?" National Lampoon Christmas Vacation, great movie. Number 5, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 1966, the original cartoon. That's a great movie too. I mean, you have this Grinch who hates Christmas up on Mount Crumpet. He hates the Who's, and then he goes down and steals Christmas, and his heart grows 2 sizes bigger, which would probably kill most people. If your heart grew that big, it would probably kill you. But he's not a human being. He's a different type of person. He's a Grinch. Okay? So it doesn't, his heart growing biologically does not kill him. It makes him a good person, or a good Grinch. I also like the movie from the 2000s. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. I like it. I grew up on it, and I haven't watched the newest Grinch, but I love the cartoon. I love the song. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. I love the Jim Carrey version too. Okay, number 4, Elf. I love Elf. Elf is a funny movie, saying it doesn't matter who your original family was. It's the person who you are, and that anybody can change, because you have this biological dad who's a dick, who doesn't want to hang out with his son, Buddy the Elf. Denies him and tries to get rid of him. Will Ferrell is hilarious in this movie, and they all come together and have the true meaning of Christmas. Also, Will Ferrell, there's this moment when he, everything he eats has to be super sugary. I'm really afraid for his diet, unless elves just have a better metabolism, because if he's not, he's going to be a diabetic. It is scary. When he eats spaghetti, he pours maple syrup on it. He keeps maple syrup on him continuously. He puts Skittles and M&Ms and maple syrup on his spaghetti. It is frightening, sometimes terrifying, but we love it. Number 3, the Santa Claus, spelled with a C. The Santa Claus is like a clause, a law clause. And, Tim Allen, Tim the Toolman Taylor, the Tory Story. I love Tim Allen. Okay? He's not a little whiny crybaby liberal. He's not like a diehard, I'm going to vote Republican no matter what, but he's a cool dude. Cool guy. He plays the Santa Claus in 1994, just a couple years before I was born. And so he accidentally murders Santa by scaring him. And that's one thing I don't understand. Santa goes to all these houses. I know that a dog's going to bark at him at some point. I know that no one came out to see who's landed on the roof before. But Tim Allen, I think his name's Scott Campbell in the movie, he comes out, gives Santa a heart attack. First person he's ever seen. Falls down, hits the ground, dies. We don't even see a body. Just disappears. Scott puts on the robe, becomes Santa Claus. And also, it does bring up a huge problem. So if I see Santa Claus and I kill him and I shoot him in the face, do I become Santa Claus? But it is a good classic movie. And it is a movie about family again. Okay? And I just want to get out there, I do not condone the shooting of Santa Claus. Don't do it. I love Santa. You might get some coal. Alright. Number 2. And these last 2 were a close one. Number 2, I watched for the first time a couple years ago. I've never watched it before. It's old. It is dinosaur old. It is Joe Biden old. It is that old. It came out in 1946. It's A Wonderful Life. And if you've watched sitcoms before, a lot of sitcoms will go off the premise of It's a Wonderful Life. And people will say, I wish I was never born, or I wish this would have never happened. And then an angel will come and will show you how life would have been worse and how life would have proceeded without you. The biggest one I know is the '70s show when Donna breaks up with Eric, somehow their relationship crashes in that show during this point, and Eric is so heartbroken. He said, I wish I never dated Donna. I wish I never loved Donna. And this comedic actor comes down, is a ridiculous angel, but shows him that his life is better, everyone's life's better, that they dated. And be careful for what you wish for. In the movie, you have a family man, and shows him and his wife come together, and he's a banker. And somehow he loses a lot of money. Not him, but his employee. And he is so stressed. The people they're mad at him. And he said, man, I'm worth more dead than alive. If they got the insurance money, they'd be able to cover it. And he's contemplating suicide. He's standing on a bridge until an angel stops him and shows him the world without him. It shows how the whole town goes corrupt without him, how his family, how his wife and kids would work without him, and then he wakes up. And then, he gets out of the story, he gets out of the phase, and he doesn't harm himself. He runs to his kids, he kisses his little girl on the head and hugs them. And this movie tugged on my heartstring as someone who's dealt with depression and self-hate and other people that I've known. And it's like, man, it puts things into perspective no matter how hard it is. Man, we got our loved ones, our friends, and our family. We have Jesus. Things going to be okay. Man, if anyone you ever know has struggled with suicide or is struggling with it now, obviously get them the help they need, but show them this movie. I mean, it is a movie that'll make you cry. And, man, it's a great movie. My number one of all time, barely beats out It's a Wonderful Life, is A Christmas Carol. It's been done 100 times. I have two favorites at the top of the list. My first one is 1984, George Scott, the actor, and then 2009, Jim Carrey, with the animated Disney movie. I love The Christmas Carol. It was a novel. And in this novel, we have Scrooge, who's visited by a free ghost to teach him the meaning of Christmas. And it's actually a very pro-life movie because you have people walking by asking for charity for Christmas. He says, can you help these kids out, the orphans? He said, are there no orphanages? Are there no prisons? And are there no this and that? And he said, yes, sir, but the orphanages are full. The prisons are full. These kids need help now. And he said, well, let them die and decrease the surplus population. I've remembered that line so hard. Let them die and decrease the surplus population. He's saying the world's too populated. Let them die. Such a cold-hearted man. He didn't care about Tiny Tim. He didn't care about his employee that wanted off half a day on Christmas Eve and on Christmas. God forbid. And I love this scene, the very opening scene, where his business partner comes back. And it's very powerful. And he said, man, you were such a great businessman. And he said, it doesn't matter. Mankind was my business. I didn't do anything but make money. And then he wakes up. It's Christmas morning, or the day before Christmas. He tells a kid going across his window, hey, get the biggest ham, get the biggest turkey, I don't remember, and bring it to Tiny Tim's house. And Tiny Tim, oh man, honestly, I'm not saying it's canonical, and I'm not saying it's scripture, but you could read that book as a fifth gospel about a man who's totally repentant and wants to have the Christmas spirit. And remember, Christmas is not about commercialism, it's not about capitalism, it's not about money, it's not about gifts. Those things go along with it, and a lot of times they've polluted it for the worst. Christmas is about Christ. The first part of the word is Christ, the second is Mass. Mass is where the Catholics would go to church. And some Protestants would also call their church meetings Mass too, but not as much. So it's Chris Mass. Christ Mass. Christmas. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. And it scares me to think all the people who've celebrated Christmas, love the Santa Claus stuff, love the gift giving and all that, and die and don't go to heaven because they don't put the true meaning of Christ in them. It's just a holiday to them. Christmas is more than a holiday. We have to use Christmas to spread the message of Christ. Forget about how commercialized it is. Forget about the nation and how we celebrate it. We have to spread the gospel. And what a perfect opportunity when it's Christmas. Jesus coming down, being born of the Virgin Mary. God Himself coming down to be born of a virgin so that He would die, so that we may live with Him. And I would say that all men could live with Him. All men from His death, burial, and resurrection to now can accept Christ. If they hear the message, it's on them. And if they reject it, it's on them. But I 100% believe God made an opportunity for all human beings, not just all kinds of people, all the people. Because God is love. And I don't think a loving God would not give people the opportunity to submit to Him. That's why I'm not a Calvinist, okay? And that the Old Testament is different, okay? And those who haven't heard, different discussion. But everyone that has heard, God has gave the opportunity of salvation. And He loves them and He tugs at their heartstrings. They might reject it, they might run from it. Many do, most do. But if you choose to accept it, then you're in His family. I'm going to read you guys the Bible verse of the day, and we will head out. The Bible verse of the day is 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 15 and 16, reading out of the NIV. There is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, for whom I am the worst. But for that very reason, I was shown mercy, so that in me, the worst of sinners, that Christ Jesus might display His immense patience as an example for those who would believe in Him and receive eternal life. That's the Apostle Paul saying that. That's a Christmas verse. You might not think it is, but it is. It's a Christmas verse because Christ came down and died for us. The worst of sinners. That it might show the world who would believe, of those who would believe in Him and receive eternal life. Go out there, spread the gospel of Christ Jesus. God loves you all. I really believe that. I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you guys back here next week on Over Opinionated. God bless you all, and Jesus is King.